14 German fighters closed in on a wounded bomber formation, leaking fuel and fire over Europe. One American pilot ignored every escort rule he had been taught and stayed. His crew thought he was reckless. Minutes later, they were alive. The Luftwaffe was confused. Winter 1943 ruled the skies with ice, fog, and death, and the daylight bomber offensive was turning into a massacre few crews expected to survive. At 20,000 feet, theory promised precision bombing and mutual defense. Reality delivered head-on attacks, exploding aluminum, and loss rates that erased entire squadrons in a single mission. German fighters perfected nose-first assaults at extreme closing speeds. Bomber gunners had seconds to react. Most never landed a hit. Crews counted missions like prison days, knowing luck mattered more than skill in the European sky. The 8th Air Force kept sending boys barely trained into storms of cannon fire. Escorts could not reach deep targets yet. P-47s and P-38s turned back early. Over Germany, bombers flew alone. The sound was constant engines, guns, radio calls, then silence when a plane vanished. Into this system, stepped pilots taught discipline, not survival against the Luftwaffe's most lethal tactic. James Howard was different. Born in China to missionaries, he learned early to solve problems without backup. He left college for aviation, washed out of the Navy, then joined the Flying Tigers in China. There, survival meant exploiting geometry, speed, and surprise. He learned never to fight fair. By 1942, he was a proven combat pilot who trusted thinking over bravado. Assigned to Europe, Howard flew the new P-51 Mustang. He was older than most, quieter, analytical. He studied reports instead of chasing glory. On January 11, 1944, he escorted bombers deep into Germany on a mission with no margin for fuel or error. Weather-scattered formations, radios failed, German fighters gathered below a broken group of B-17s drifting alone. Howard saw the math instantly. 30 bombers, more than a dozen German fighters. No escorts nearby. If he left, he might survive. If he stayed, he would be alone and likely die. Doctrine gave no answer. Howard chose to fight. He dove at the Germans before they committed, scattering the first attack and buying seconds the bombers desperately needed. He did not dogfight. He stayed close. Every German pilot now had to deal with him before reaching the bombers. Attack after attack came from multiple angles. Howard disrupted each pass with positioning and timing, not pursuit. He turned himself into a constant obstacle. The Germans could still attack, but now every run carried unacceptable risk. Then Howard did the unthinkable. He flew into the bomber formation itself. Escort doctrine forbade it. Turbulence, collisions, and friendly fire made it suicidal. But Howard understood the head-on attack required a clear lane. He placed his Mustang directly in front of the bombers, matching speed, becoming a moving barrier the Germans could not ignore. When the next fighters dove nose first, Howard waited until the last second, fired, then broke. The Germans aborted. Again and again they hesitated. Beam attacks failed. Vertical dives overshot. The bombers adapted, holding fire and calling threats. One fighter and 30 bombers formed an improvised system that denied the Luftwaffe its greatest advantage. For 30 minutes, Howard fought alone. His fuel vanished. His ammunition ran low. Rounds punched through his aircraft. His engine overheated, but the bombers stayed intact. Eventually the Germans disengaged. Not defeated but outplayed. The cost had grown too high. When Howard finally peeled away, the lead bomber wagged its wings in silent thanks. Howard barely made it back to England. His engine died after landing. Debriefings followed. His report was brief. Bomber crews told the real story. Intelligence officers compared accounts. What Howard did broke rules but saved lives. In a war bleeding crews and morale, results mattered more than manuals. Howard received the Medal of Honor. He was the only fighter pilot in Europe to earn it. The citation praised courage, but missed the core truth. This was not blind heroism. It was logic under fire. Howard understood presence mattered more than kills. He weaponized position, not aggression, and exposed a flaw in German tactics no one had exploited. The 8th Air Force adapted. Escorts flew closer. Attack paths were denied earlier. Losses declined alongside longer-range escorts and German attrition. The Luftwaffe noticed. Captured pilots spoke of American fighters that refused to leave the bombers. Howard's maneuver was never formal doctrine, but its influence spread through training and combat practice. Howard finished the war, rose to brigadier general, and lived quietly. He avoided attention and called the mission problem-solving, not heroism. Bomber crews disagreed. Many credited him with their lives. His legacy was not a tactic, but a mindset. War is not won by rules alone. It is won by understanding when to break them. James Howard died in 1995. Veterans remembered the day a lone Mustang stayed when logic said to leave. One pilot changed the balance through clarity, geometry, and nerve. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe. This is history worth remembering, and there are many more waiting to be told.